Have you ever walked into a building and just felt safe? Or maybe the opposite, a little exposed? Well, a lot of that feeling comes down to design choices you probably don't even notice. So today, we're going to dive into that really fine line between making a space welcoming and making it secure. And we'll do it all through the lens of something called the two-door problem. Let's see how it works.
Okay, so our case study for this is a student hostel. The goal here seems pretty simple, right? Create a vibrant community hub. You've got private rooms for students, active zones like a gym, and even public spaces like a cafeteria. And it all revolves around this shared courtyard. The whole place is designed to be open, to get people to interact.
But, this kind of openness creates a classic design dilemma. When a space is accessible to pretty much everyone, how do you protect the private areas without just, building a bunch of walls and turning it into a fortress? How do you keep that welcoming vibe, but also make sure residents are actually safe? That is the core problem we're going to unpack right now.
So let's zoom in on our first challenge, the student cafeteria. On paper, it's a great idea. It serves students from the inside courtyard, but it can also serve the public from the street, which brings in some revenue. The problem is having those two doors, one private and one public, creates what we're calling the two-door problem. The real danger here has a name. It's called traffic leakage. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's when people can use a space like this cafeteria as an unofficial shortcut, unintentionally bypassing all your security and just leaking from the public street right into the private student courtyard. So how does something like this happen? Well, it's usually a perfect storm of three things. First, you've got the two doors in a straight line, which basically creates an obvious, tempting path. Second, there's nothing in between them. No counter, no turnstile, nothing to act as a checkpoint. And third, you've got good old human nature. Come on, we've all seen it. Someone props a door open for some fresh air, and boom, just like that, your security plan is toast. And this, right here, really gets to the core of it. A direct line of sight is basically a direct invitation. The source material is crystal clear on this. If you can see from the public side straight through to the private side, the design has already failed. Why? Because it creates a confusing, unmanaged path that people will naturally want to take. Okay, so how do we fix it without just closing one of the doors and losing that public revenue? The answer is much smarter. It's architectural. We need to redesign the cafeteria from a simple tunnel into what's called a controlled exchange, and it uses a really simple but powerful design principle.
And this key concept is called a bent space. It's brilliant. Instead of a straight line, the path through the space is deliberately bent. Think an L shape or a Z shape. This one simple change is incredibly powerful because it breaks both the line of sight and the direct physical path from one side to the other.
And here's where that abstract idea becomes a real-world solution. Take a look at the floor plan. A member of the public enters, but they can't just walk straight through. The design naturally guides them right to the serving counter, which acts as a controlled choke point. The path to the student area on the other side is physically blocked. Through traffic is completely prevented. It's that simple. So let's break down why this works so well. It creates totally distinct zones for the public and for students. That counter isn't just for serving coffee. It's an operational filter. It physically stops people from cutting through, it blocks that dangerous line of sight, and it totally transforms a security risk into a well-managed, controlled space.
All right, problem one solved. But what about a space that's even trickier? Let's talk about the gym and the basketball court. It's got the same two-door issue, internal access for students, external access for others, but here the stakes are way, way higher.
So why is it riskier? Well, think about it. A cafeteria usually has staff around, and the interactions are quick. You buy something, you leave. A gym, on the other hand, is often unsupervised. People hang out, it's loud, doors get propped open all the time for equipment or ventilation, and the consequences of a security breach are just much more serious. A simple, bent space might not cut it here.
For this higher risk zone, we need an even more robust design principle, the terminal space. The idea is simple but so effective. You design the space to be a final destination. It's a place you go to, not a place you go through. The layout itself makes it impossible to use as a shortcut.
And check out this floor plan. This is that terminal space idea in action. Follow the path with me. Students enter the gym from inside the hostel through a bent vestibule. They can then get out to the court. But here's the absolute crucial detail. Notice there's no door leading from the court back into the hostel. The only way out is the main external entrance. The gym becomes a one-way filter, not a two-way shortcut. This is called the clubhouse and yard principle, and it's a great way to think about it. The hostel is like a private club that grants you access to its yard, the court. But the yard never grants you access back into the clubhouse. It completely reverses the logic. The gym becomes a secure filter, not a vulnerable passageway. So we've seen two very specific problems with two very tailored solutions. But what's the big idea connecting them? Well, it all comes down to a philosophy of proactive design, one that's based on zoning, predictability, and control. Let's actually put them side by side. It makes it super clear. The cafeteria was a moderate risk, so we could get away with operational controls like staff and a counter in a bent space. But the gym, that was a high risk, so it needed much stronger spatial controls, the very layout and the one-way flow of a terminal space. Different risks demand different design models. And when you zoom out, you can really see how these little solutions fit into the building's entire strategy. The whole hostel is organized into these clear zones. You've got the private student rooms, the semi-private courtyard, and the public active areas. Each zone has its own rules, its own thresholds, creating this clear hierarchy of security. This represents a fundamental shift in how we think about security. The old logic was all about proximity. Oh, just put the admin office nearby to keep an eye on things. The new, much smarter logic is about predictability. You design paths and spaces to be so clear and unambiguous that people just naturally follow the rules. And that brings us to the ultimate goal of this entire approach. It's not about adding more guards or more cameras. It's about designing out the ambiguity from the very beginning. This quote from the source material just nails it. You're not just protecting against theft. You're protecting the feeling of order, you're protecting the resident's sense of ownership, and you're protecting those quiet versus loud areas that make a space livable. What you are really protecting is the predictability of the space itself. So, here's the bottom line. Good security is proactive, not reactive. It's not about slapping more locks on the door after a problem happens. It's about thoughtful design that naturally guides people to do the right thing, which makes any violation feel like a deliberate, intentional choice, not some innocent mistake. And that leaves us with a final thought for you. Now that you know what to look for, what two-door problems can you spot in the world around you? In your office, your library, your local coffee shop? You might be surprised how often security is just left to chance, instead of being designed right into the building from the start.